we open this virtual space, let's connect and be present with each other. Let's get to know each other with kindness and gentleness. Let's listen to each other with generosity in our hearts. Let's learn from each other with curiosity and wonder. We are a part of nature. We are a part of Earth. We are a part of life. May we use our time together to add to peace and truth and goodness in the world.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. To all those of you joining us live and all who may watch the recording, welcome to Peace Week. Peace Week 2023 began September 16th and runs through the 23rd, embracing the International Day of Peace, which is celebrated globally tomorrow on September 21st. Peace Week also represents the closing arc of the 99 days of peace through unity. The 99-day journey to Peace Week began in June with World Unity Week and has included many stops along the way as we are holding a shared purpose of peace through unity toward a thriving world for all of life. This entire event is co-produced by our good friends at Unity Earth and the Sign Network, and I just want to call out Ben Bowler, Irina Morrison, and John and Summer Joy Raymer, good friends of mine, along with a host of other organizations and individuals lending their talents and gifts to co-create an inspirational, impactful, and powerful event. I'm Liz Williams. I'm the founder of Awe Partners and an emissary of the rise of the divine feminine on the planet. And I'm here with my dear friend and collaborator, Anne Baring. Anne is a Jungian analyst, author and co-author of 8 books. And her magnum opus is The Dream of the Cosmos, A Quest for the Soul. And this past July, she published Messages from a Transcendent Dimension, which are the channeled messages that her mother received from 1943 to 1965. And we'll hear more about that today. And we're also joined by my dear friends and founders of Mary Magdalene School in Vézelay, France, Anna Vanikova and Petra Brusin. In 2020, Anna and Petra were called by Mary Magdalene and Yeshua into a channel of spiritual consciousness, which they began to discover over a period of 3 to 5 years through intense daily spiritual work. Guidance from the light realms opened innumerable fields of cosmic consciousness, libraries of light that had been inaccessible to humanity since the fall of consciousness. Teachings shared through this channel are living knowledge, which awaken layers of soul memory through codes, resonance, remembrance, and unity consciousness. They are deeply supportive to humanity as tools to anchor in the higher new earth consciousness. And one other thing I'd like to share as we begin is if you've been in presentations with me before, you know that I always choose from my Oracle decks beforehand. And very often the message received is absolutely spot on for the day. And today was no different. So I want to share just briefly from, first of all, my Oracle deck, The Divine Feminine by Megan Watterson. The first card I chose was the Shekhinah. And I'm going to read just a bit about that. The Shekhinah represents the omnipresence and the immanence of the divine feminine. The word Shekhinah in Hebrew means to settle, to inhabit, or to dwell. It represents an experience of the divine presence right here in the body and in the world. In Kabbalism, mystical Judaism, the Shekhinah is the feminine aspect of God, and she's depicted as a piercing, radiant light. She is the experience of the presence of God within us as the soul of God. To the Kabbalist, honoring the feminine is of the utmost importance. This is why the red thread of protection is worn on the left wrist, which is the receiving feminine side of the body. In Kabbalistic teachings, the Shekhinah is represented in the tree of life as the pillar of balance. She is the force that unites the opposites. She brings heaven to earth, and she unites the body and soul. Because of her, there can be a direct path of communion between humanity and divinity. Because of her, we can experience God right here in this moment and right here in the body. And then right. And then the second card I chose was from Rebecca Campbell's The Rose Oracle. And the card was the lineage of the rose. And I believe I'm wearing roses on my blouse today. Lineage of the rose. These times, these changing, divisive times, your soul chose to be here right now for this. You're part of a collective team led by the goddess, by the mother of us all, to reweave the thread of the rose back into the tapestry of humanity, to make spaces where all people feel cherished and safe, to heal and be healed from the destructive patterns of patriarchy, to be part of the return of the goddess to the earth. If you've been doubting your path, you're being called to look within and trust the whispers and weavings from caverns deep. The way of the mystic rose is walked by few and known by heart, not mind. Try not to overthink. Rather, trust the threads that are woven deep. This card contains within it a confirmation of the inner call and a reassurance that you're not alone in it. The mother of us all thanks you for being part of these changing times for humanity. She acknowledges your devotion to doing your best to support yourself and others in the journey back home, to themselves, to each other, and to the earth. She wants you to know that she is available to guide you every step of the way. Speak, sing, and dance with her. You are led, you are led, you are led. So I thought that was a perfect way to begin our time together in honoring the divine feminine and her work and her being here, right here with us. So at this time, I would love to invite Anna to share with us an alignment to get us going. Thank you.
Would love to. Thank you for that, Liz. So I invite you to close your eyes with me just for a couple of minutes so that we can breathe in and out and simply center our energy in our heart space, feeling the presence of the Divine Mother holding us, holding this peace process, holding our remembrance process. I invite you to move, if you can, to a place in yourself that has great stillness, a sacred space within yourself, within your heart. This place of stillness that is always filled with the love of the Divine Mother. It is within each and every one of us. And we are invited to go to this space regularly, to be held, to be guided. The sacred space of the heart through which all of us are connected. So as we take another breath in and another breath out, we'll simply feel into this interconnectedness, this web of life. Through which we are all one. And we allow from this space the words to rise that will most benefit humanity at this time. So we'll take one more deep breath in and out, and then I slowly invite you to open your eyes again.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Anna. So I want to begin with just a brief explanation of how Anne and I came to collaborate on our peace initiative. Last March, I was reading Anne's book, The Dream of the Cosmos, and specifically the powerful chapters about war. I was drawn in by her description of the addiction to war on the planet and the urgent need to address the insanity. I had met Anne a year earlier when I co-hosted an online summit, and I remembered her sharing her belief that if the mothers of the world would just say no more to war and violence, it would end. I wondered if anything like this had ever been attempted, and I reached out to Anne to hear her thoughts. Synchronistically, she was in the process of publishing the channeled messages that her mother had received during World War II. Messages that warned of a catastrophe if humanity did not change course from the path it was on, and if science did not desist from further interference with nature and the creation of ever more deadly weapons. We agreed that it was time for us to do something together, and so we wrote this urgent call to all humanity: war and violence stops now. And that can be found on Anne's website, which we'll put in the chat. We've been honored to participate in the 99 Days of Peace with so many amazing individuals and organizations. And we chose to house our program under the umbrella of the Earthwise Constitution and pledges, which were created by our dear friend Annalou Smitzman. During the 99 days, we have held a total of 4 gatherings, including this one today. Now, in previous gatherings, we've been joined by the founders of a variety of peace initiatives with the goal of inviting collaborations on our path to peace on Earth. So I want to dive into the conversation now, and I'd like to start, Anne, with you. You have researched and written about the God has had on society. Can you share a bit about that?
Yes, I would love to, Liz, and so lovely to be here. Well, it's a long story, a 4,000-year-old love story, which really moved from the image of the Great Mother to the image of the Great Father. And in doing that move, we lost the image of the Great Mother, of the Divine Mother. So we lost the feminine aspect of deity, which Liz just spoke about in that marvelous quote from the Shekinah, about the Shekinah. And a few years ago, I had a visionary dream, maybe 40 years ago, because I'm quite old now, of a cosmic woman stretching from earth to heaven. I didn't know who she was, but in my research, it brought me to the image of the Shekinah and the feminine aspect of the divine. So really, we have to had many indoctrinations which really had given us a false image of reality, both from religion and from science, because we haven't really been told where we've come from, who we are, why we're here on this planet, or where we go when we die. And those are the four great questions which really hang over us and have never been addressed or answered by either science or religion. And I think the need for this has brought us to this period now when we have to change our consciousness, understand where we've gone wrong in the past, start on a new path, and invoke the balance of the masculine and the feminine so that we restore true balance to the world, because the world is very, very much out of balance, as we can all see now, with terrible suffering, war increasing every minute practically, and nobody knowing how to stop. Because those who are engaged in this don't know anything else. They have no higher vision. They have no understanding that we are part of the divine, that each one of us is an atom in the body of God, if you like, or the body of Goddess. And so we have to really reconstruct our image of reality. And what's happening now is we're really reconnecting with the cosmos, reconnecting with nature, because we've been right off the path for a very long time, for these 4,000 years. So it will take some effort to really raise our consciousness to a new level of understanding where we know that we are part of the divinity that we've been worshipping for 4,000 years or more. And this is such a huge step forward because we've been programmed to think that we're separate from the divine and that we're separate from nature. And this has been the huge mistake that has been made by the patriarchal religions, because in focusing on the transcendent image of God, they cut the umbilical cord with nature. So nature was discarded as something really of no value. And now we're even told we're separate in our consciousness from nature. Whereas all the shamanic cultures have told us that we're actually an intrinsic part of nature. We used to be able to speak to the trees, to the flowers, to the water, to the mountains, to the sky. And we've lost that extraordinary ability, but it can be recovered. And it is being recovered now with the help of the indigenous people. And I think that there are many, many people now working to raise the consciousness of humanity, which is absolutely marvelous. But part of it, the essential part, is to bring back the awareness of the divine feminine as the balance to the overemphasis on the divine masculine, if you like, or on the masculine principle in general. And I think that because of the myth of the fall, which came in with Judaism and then passed to Christianity, we were given the wrong image, because we were given an image of ourselves as separate from the divine, exiled to the earth as a punishment. And this gave us such a sense of being abandoned, really, that we compensated by the will to power. And this is where the whole will to power syndrome has come from, our sense of being abandoned, our sense of not knowing what we're doing here, why we're here, and really alienating people from each other because they didn't understand anything about why they were here or who they were. It's quite understandable how this situation could come into being, but it can be changed now, I think, with the insight and the knowledge we have from quantum physics, which is opening up a whole new area for understanding our connection to each other, our connection to the divine ground. Well, I might not call it the divine ground, but I do call it that. And to the whole complex of reality that we have always been part of. We are immortal beings. We are beings of light and beings of love. And that is something that we need to learn and to know and to take deep into our heart, that Anna was talking about, deep into the center of ourselves, so that it becomes a reality lived every day, the way we live our lives, the way we enact our relationships with other people, the way we really speak and giving out love to people instead of fear, because fear has been the great enemy all the way through. If we don't know what we're doing here, or who we are, or where we're going, the outcome is to be afraid. And that fear coming from the survival instincts has driven the path that we've taken over the last 4,000 to 5,000 years. And really, we need to get off that path as quickly as we can, which is being done with the help of the great initiative of what we're taking part in today, and thousands of people all over the planet working together to do what they can in the way they're being guided to do, I'm sure, the way we've been guided to come together and to speak the way we are. So I think that I've covered everything that's necessary, except to bring in the publication of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene in 2010, which was an enormous step forward because it had been lost for 2,000 years pretty well, although been carefully guarded by a secluded community in France. But the release of that gospel with the realization that Mary Magdalene was married to Yeshua, or Jesus, that she was a co-teacher with him, this could change the whole understanding of the Christianity that we've inherited over the last 2,000 years. If we could see it through this different perspective of the human soul coming to raise its consciousness in the truly dreadful times in which Yeshua lived with the Roman Empire all around, we are confronted again with this great empire of different powers in the world, exactly the same situation that he was confronted to. But we're many of us together today. We can speak from our hearts that this old pattern has to change. And with the help of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and all the saints and archangels and angels who are with us, who have also been forgotten, we don't speak of them today, but they're all around us, we can do this. We really can do it. So I think probably I've said enough. And thank you very much, Liz, for inviting me to be here.
Oh, absolutely, Anne. And you never say enough. I can listen to you always. So it's always such a blessing to have you in our presence. And I love that you brought in Mary Magdalene. You know, we've said, and one of the pieces that I left out was after I had reached out to Anne about this urgent call initiative, it was only later that we realized that I had reached out to her on Mother's Day, which is in the UK, where Anne lives. I do not live there. So we knew that we were being guided. We know we've been guided by Mary Magdalene as well as Divine Mother. And I'd love to presence a little bit more Mary Magdalene in this conversation. So Anne, I don't know if you want to say anything additional about her, Anna and Petra, about her and what message of peace she might be bringing to us today, because many around the world are being visited by Mary Magdalene, are being encouraged to learn more about her as the role that she played, the pivotal role that she played in Yeshua's teaching. So any thoughts, anything else that'd like to be shared about that?
Well, I think I'll hand over to Anna here.
Would you like to start, Petra? Would you like to address that?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, Anne, how you brought Mary Magdalene into the conversation. I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, that she's very close to our hearts. As we heard her call and came into this incredible work of service where we are in, and it's beautiful. She's an incredible symbol also for those who know her of the rising feminine. There's many examples, I believe, in the world from different great examples, but for us, she came in as an example that was really dishonored for so long. And as is being brought back in what we feel is very truthful, and she's guiding us in a way into the area of living in peace for all of humanity through a process of remembering, as you said, Anne, our unity, our connection with all of life, no matter what it is on the earth. And at the same time, she's always guiding us in our remembrance of our multidimensionality. So, which brings in an incredible, powerful being in ourselves, a remembering of an incredible power that comes from the heart that is actually capable of creating a whole new world, and a world in harmony and peace. And that's what we're here for. And she's sometimes stretching Anna and me with the teachings she's bringing to us, and we listen as best to our possibilities to what it is that she's bringing. And she's always in a space of understanding and coming in through resonance, which she's also explaining to us is the new way of talking to each other. And when we came into this field of this beautiful initiative, and thank you that we are allowed here to share also with all of you, I was just watching at all of the faces that are here involved in this project, calling an urgent call to humanity. And I feel like, all of us beautiful beings here attending and listening to this have heard that call, even coming into the earth realms, being born in this exciting time. And I mean, we all said yes. And I mean, it's not always the easiest path, but the generations that live now have really said yes to that. And I feel such a gratitude to be in this field of resonance. And I think I mean, if we can feel the resonance of gratitude that we've come together, I mean, it makes my heart sing, and I hope it makes all of our hearts sing. And we need that also at times to stay strong and centered. Yeah. So, yeah, Mary Magdalene is a leading guide for us, as many others, but she's really very special for us. And yeah, I'm glad she's here. Yeah.
Me too. Anna, do you want to comment on that as well?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about the fact of the very special moment that we're in, because we're actually very much in the change of eras, and everything that's not compatible with peace is actually coming up to the surface to be examined, because the prayer, not our own individual prayer only, but the prayer of the cosmos, is to come back into peace. So we're evolutionarily moving into the golden era of peace. It's much larger than just a few of us. It's really the end of a cosmic cycle, which in Indian cosmology is called the Kali Yuga. And we're moving into a new Yuga, the anticipated golden era of peace. So we are actually in this major spiritual rite of passage. And I think that this is one thing that we need to understand when the going gets bumpy, which it is. We are really shifting from this victim, perpetrator, savior paradigm that we've been in for so long to a paradigm of understanding that we are the center of the creation of our own individual and collective creation hologram. So we're in the process of learning, remembering. We really feel it's a remembering process to take all of our power back from the outer world, to dissolve all of these false and limiting narratives that we've been programmed with by outer sources, and to come back to the voice of our soul, to bring our gifts back into our creation, because that's what we're here for. We're really here to walk the path of our soul, to bring peace to earth.
Gorgeous. So that path, as you said, has been very bumpy. Not only externally, what we see when we look out, or God forbid, listen to the news, but the inner path, this healing that we're being invited to. Identifying all those thoughts and behaviors that are holding us back from expressing our true and authentic self, our magnificence, and our divinity. What is it, do you believe, that gets in the way of that? And how do we work through that? What is that path of healing?
Mm-hmm.
I asked that question to any of you who'd like to comment.
Mm-hmm.
Could I start? I think that the main problem is fear, because we've been programmed for so long to be frightened of what might happen. You only have to look at the media to see how they're always saying that this might happen, or that might happen, or something terrible is going to happen, or the financial market's going to crash. Whatever it might be, there's always the anticipation of disaster just waiting around the corner. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's part of the programming that we've received, quite deliberately, I think, to make people live in a state of fear so that they will be ready to attack their neighbor, or to attack people on Facebook, or whatever it might be. To attack is their response out of that fear, out of that uncertainty and anxiety. But if we knew who we are, if we knew that we're part of the divinity of the whole cosmos, if we knew that we had a tremendous evolutionary responsibility to wake up and serve this wonderful planet and save it from our ancient predatory habits, I think this would bring people together, because there would be no need for differences of creed or religion or gender or whatever. We would all be together in this great work, the alchemical great work, which is all about changing human consciousness, bringing you from the negredo, the dark state, into the enlightened, the rubedo state. So we are all engaged in this, whether we know it or not. And I think that that is really wonderful. So, and fear of death has been one of the major, major problems right the way through, and it still is, because people don't know that they don't die when their physical body dies. They think they've been conditioned by scientific materialism to believe that death is the end of consciousness. This is not true. And if people knew that, they would have much more trust in the continuation of their life. They wouldn't be so frightened and so angry and so bitter about having to leave this life before they may have finished their work here, or to leave all their dear ones that they think they'll never see again. It has been incredible suffering has been created by fear of death. So that would be one of the things that we would need to overcome in this new phase, would fade away, and we realize that there is no division really between this life and the life beyond. We simply go through a door, we move into another dimension, but we don't die in the physical sense. So that is really what the first revelation is, that we belong to the divinity of the whole. The second is that we don't die and we move on into this other spheres and come back. We've lived many thousands of lives probably on this planet. We've come to love it, many of us. And it's precious to us. And so I think we need to hang on to that. So I think that I probably said enough, but I would stress the importance of the fear element in what has led us into this present situation.
Yeah, I think it requires an incredible discernment at this time, and discernment's capacity for all of us to really investigate in ourselves where we give our power away to outer stories. I mean, you mentioned briefly the media. Where are we hooked into stories that are not ours? There is really an inner work to happen there for many of us to come back to our own stories and listen in the deep silence of our own hearts to what the story is that is true for us. And I mean, we all have been some way connected or hooked in to the story and living in these times, part of the stories, one way or the other, as a process also to come into liberation, to let go of all these hooks, to detach of all of them, to be liberated. And we are so much supported by the wind in our back, in a way, in these times of change, to fully discern what is our truthful self, what is truth, where is peace in myself, in this place of beautiful inner fulfillment in which we don't need anything, we don't want anything at all. It is exactly as it is, and there's only harmony and wholeness, and we feel fully alive in this state of peace and nourished by our creative process, which is so joyful and coherent. And I think that's the invitation for all of us at the moment in this whole transition, knowing that the new is here. I mean, it is here. We do not maybe always see it, but it is here. The resonance is fully available for all of us to start a new story of creation. And I mean, we know somehow deep inside of ourselves that we've come to make this happen. And the path is prepared by many of us, many of our ancestors already, our family members. And we are now in the middle of the creation moment. And we're learning how all these spiritual tools that we receive, how can we bring them into a world of matter, into a world of manifestation? How does this work? And we bring all our wisdom that we already carry inside of us to the forefront, actually, of creation at the moment. And it's great that we have moments like this that we can share with the world what we already remembered, each and every one of us. So we can help remembering each other. Yeah.
And I want, Anna, if you'd like to comment as well, but I would love for you both to dive in a bit to what Mary Magdalene's school is all about, because it is a modern day mystery school that I am honored to be part of. I in fact, spent a week on retreat in Vézelay, where they are located just this past July. But you do bring through these tools, these spiritual practices, things that we can use during this time to create that inner peace that then leads to outer peace. If you'd like to touch on that, I'd love to hear more about how you bring that forth.
Yeah, we have we work with many different kinds of tools, and this is maybe one of the messages also to our listeners, is that there are so many tools available to create peace. And peace, what we need to say, it starts on the inside. All creation starts on the inside. We will never create peace if we're trying to control something on the outside. That just does not work. So we need to start on the inside. And luckily, we have many tools. One of them, maybe I can speak about, and maybe afterwards, Petra, you can speak to others, is heart imagery or heart dreaming. And I'll just give a really practical example of some of the miracles that happened in different communities where we were working. One, heart dreaming is really it's a tool where it's a technique where we are connecting our heart and our mind together to dream into place, into the material manifestation, a reality. And years ago, I was living in the Czech Republic, and there was supposed to be a military missile built very close to my house. And like a missile, was it like a radar for missiles? And there had already been a contract signed between the US and the Czech Republic, and they were going to start to build. And a group of us got together and we said, let's start to really send images of beautiful nature, the animals undisturbed, the vegetation healthy, peace in this area where they were going to build this radar. And we actually spent 6 months as a group in our meditations sending these images into the space. And after 6 months, they canceled the contract and they never built the radar. So this works. This really, really works. There's another very beautiful story about Colette, who's an Israeli master of heart imagery, very well known, had many, many students come to her to learn heart imagery. And during one of the wars in Israel, she was visualizing her village as completely peaceful and safe, a haven of peace. And all the villages around her were bombed, but her village was completely intact. So we have a very powerful tool we can use without needing to do anything in the outer world at all. We just need to actually really remember who we are and apply ourselves. And this is, I think it's a muscle that needs to be developed, that we're just remembering, and it needs to be developed. And the more we develop it and the more we have results, the more we will understand the true nature of our power, which is infinite.
Yeah, and it's a power that many of us, I think, fear actually acknowledging. I mean, it is a real leap to imagine I am that powerful. I truly have that divinity within and the ability to, as Anne and I used in the urgent call, command something to happen. And that's what we're in the most beautiful of ways. So that's gorgeous. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. Petra, do you want to share another spiritual tool or technique that you share?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many, and there's so much to say about it. It's the same like when you ask us, what is peace? Like, what are the tools? There's a whole library full of tools that we teach at the moment that come from the guidance, actually, of the light realms, or whatever you want to call it. But one of them to really understand is the power of resonance. And I just touched on it already. When we embody, let's say, the journeys we take, the teachings we receive, and we fully embody it, our resonance is rising into a field where there is only the existence of oneness, and all other elements disappear. So when we practice to to stay in that resonance, because that's the practice that Anna is also mentioning here. The practice of actually we are all one, and we consciously live in that state, no matter where we are moving through in our daily experience. Then the state of separation and all that has come with it in the hologram that is played out in our world just dissolves. And we see it happening more and more often, like instantly, that the power of resonance is just manifesting in a very, very rapid pace. And it comes also with the understanding that we are living beacons of peace in a way. And if that is what we hold every day in our own practice and in our inner world, to stay centered in that space and examine every ripple that might rise, move through it, examine it, and work with it in the inner realms to dissolve it. And there's too many tools to talk about right now, but there are tools to dissolve it energetically. Then we do see it immediately dissolving in our outer world. And just imagine if all of us would do that, what happens then? Because, I mean, we are, we know that we are but others are it's like a action actually that we all
Kind of pandemic we want.
yeah. So it's beautiful that it works like that, and it makes us also very powerful. That is also where the power comes in, what we can do. So, I mean, this is just one of the tools. There are very specific tools also that come with the mystery school teachings that are given by the light realms, working with geometries, working with codes, understanding how our body functions, our multidimensional body, how it functions, how we can bring it into a service, into peace, because that's the highest state we are all actually in at the moment, and wanted to see in every corner of this world. There is one other element that I would like to bring in, and that is about the understanding of the principle of duality, which is a kind of a tool, because there comes practice with it, but we are really invited to understand that the duality, the polarity, actually has been given as a tool for creation. And there is so much to understand that we have only understood being totally in the veil and being in a state of I don't know, dream state. That's duality or polarity are two forces against each other. While we know we need to understand through the guidance we received how much polarity will lead to creation when the two really come together and they start to merge, understanding that they come from one central theme, and then understand that from this duality theme there is this midpoint where creation happens, and that's also where the Trinity comes in. The third comes in this midpoint, and there's a whole practice with that we need to go through inside of ourselves to also have the direct experience of the Trinity in ourselves. So I'm just touching on a few things. I mean, time is precious in these moments that we talk here, but those are a few elements that we're touching on in the moment that we see are very critical to create a new world altogether. Yeah.
So a couple of things I want to touch on, and the first is particularly the first two tools that you suggest. They're free. This is something that's so important, that this is not something that costs a lot of money for us to do. So that's certainly not an impediment. They are available to us now. So that's first. Second, the power that happens when we do this in community or in circle. So we begin with ourselves and with that inner peace, but when we come together, as you said, create that resonant field and create from there, it's just exponential what we're capable of and why impactful. And so important. But I'd love to just, before we move from and go into our guided meditation, this talk about this duality that we live in, and yet there is a third way or a middle path, I've heard it described as. So there is, rather than looking at it as the black and white or either or, there is the both and, there is a third way. And this is really what I see as how we create that new earth. Once, the inner peace leads to outer peace, but there's a third way to create specifically, perhaps the new systems, the new foundations that we'll be using in the new earth. Would any of you like to comment on what you see as this trinity, this third path, this middle path? A little bit more about that.
I would love to. The way that I see it is that we are in a realm where we're inhabiting many, many different kinds of fields of consciousness. And the consciousness right now with the veil is that when there is difference, then there's conflict. Or we have very often we have conflict. But if we take off the veil and we come into wholeness with ourselves, into a state of peace with ourselves, then we can move into an exploration of a completely different field of consciousness, maybe even opposite field of consciousness. And the force of the difference is actually what creates a third creation. A creation that has never been, and that is actually the joy of this realm that we're in. This possibility of creating something that has never been before. But in order to do that, then we need to be at peace and to be able to hold the polarity, the duality within a unified field, within the field of love, within the field of peace, to then observe what emerges from this connection between these two fields of consciousness. And they could be any two fields of consciousness or more, two or more actually. But it's an incredible creative potential that we're given here in this realm, just waiting to be experimented with and explored. And when we move out, once we can move out of having conflict, inner conflict, because all conflict starts on the inside first. And we all know how it is to have two voices inside of us that are saying, well, this, and we can't kind of make the two voices meet. And that's part of our inner work, is to create peace between our inner voices so that we can move forward in a unified way. When we can do that internally for ourselves, that creation process, we can then do it on the outside with others. And this is the realm of magic. This is a realm of absolute magic, because we can never predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, so go ahead, Petra.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, when these two come together and the third rises, we always say, just move into what you're ready to create without any attachments, so that the great mystery can just be present and we surrender to what is there, which is in another way of saying also to keep our, let's say, our lower mind out of the way, and to accept, and which is also a feminine principle, like we spoke about it, that we accept that the birth can happen in its most natural way. So, and that's a practice, because when you are in a great desire also for a world in peace, you really want to go and you want to make it happen. And that's a wonderful drive inside of ourselves. And yet we feel the practice is also to be fully present inside of ourselves, and then be fully there to allow these worlds to merge, and then surrender and trust the great mystery, the divine source, that the third will come exactly in the way that it's supposed to be. And there's a whole practice there that comes also with humility and in a way bowing to the great mystery. We do our best here as human beings, and yet we know only what we can what we can access, yeah? And we all feel that there's a greater source at play, which is also us. And yet there's so much more there. And that comes for me with an incredible honor and bowing for this source, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, whatever names we give it in our own cultures. There's so many words for it. Yeah.
You spoke earlier, Liz, you asked the question about what are the thoughts and behavior patterns that could get in the way of building this peace. And Petra just touched on it, that actually the lower mind needs to actually function, be in its place, and not take over the whole show. And it really needs to be in service to the higher, to the unlimited consciousness that exists in the universe. And this can be really difficult for people who have grown up in the Occidental world, because we're trained to think with the lower mind. We're not trained to think with the higher mind of God, with this higher mind of source. So when we put it in its rightful position, this lower mind can then be in service to this vast, absolutely enormous, complex mind that the lower mind will never understand. I mean, we just have to kind of come to terms with the fact that it's never going to understand it, because it's so vast. So we need to train the lower mind. Knowing that it's limited, it has its place, but it's limited and it cannot have a full picture. And most definitely, it's not the lower mind that is going to create magic and miracles in our lives and new possibilities. That's not where it's going to come from.
No, and I'm just so thrilled that we are presencing not only peace consciousness, but miracle consciousness, this whole realm of magic and miracles that is accessible now. So I'm so thrilled at the hopeful message that's coming through here. And Anne, I'm going to circle back to you, but I think first we'll do this guided meditation. We are just watching the time here. We're absolutely happy to leave some time for Q&A if there are any questions. So please go ahead and share those or be ready. We'd love to pull you in about 10 minutes. But let's go ahead and do our guided meditation, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A and some final thoughts.
Okay, just close your eyes if you can at the moment. And just come back in the center of yourself, using your breath as a guiding force of centering. Just inhale and exhale in your own rhythm. Just follow the flow. There's nothing to do, nothing to interfere. The breath that is always there. And just let go of all of the words that you heard. And become as empty as possible, centered in yourself. And if there's still thoughts rising, just look at them like clouds in the sky as they're moving away from your fields. And slowly, bit by bit, we move into the sacred heart space. You know exactly where this is, into this place and into this space where there is infinity. The space that's always there. The space where you meet the pure you. Beyond any story, Just move there deeper and deeper. You know exactly where to go to find this space of silence, of stillness, deep, deep silence. And there is an emptiness, a spaciousness, it is full of fertility, yet empty. And from this space of inner silence and unity, we connect with the web of life, by intention, the web of creation, and we become aware how deeply connected we all are in this web of life. Holding each other in this web of life. And at the very, very center, we witness a beautiful white gold flame of unconditional love. It is so pure, so radiant. It's pure consciousness. This is the moment we are invited by Mary Magdalene to allow inside of ourselves to rise any obstacles, any obstructions, blockages that are ready to be dissolved, any emotions, anything that contracts you, to let it rise, to observe it as an observer, and to allow the inner flame of unconditional love inside of you to be with this element inside of you that is ready to be released. Just bring them together and allow the divine force to be with it and observe. Just observe. There's nothing to do. but allow the white gold flame of unconditional love to be with it and to alchemize it. Just witness what happens. All is well. Maybe you see something, maybe you hear something, maybe you know something's happening, or none of it. It's all well. Just stay with yourself, with your inner truth. Allow in this beautiful field of connection to let all the blockages dissolve easily, effortlessly. And as this is happening, you observe a space of liberation, spaciousness, relaxation, maybe. Just surrender to whatever is here now. It is as it is. And all is well in this field of unconditional love. We're all held by the Divine Mother. And as this process continues inside of ourselves, we can come back to it anytime. We take a moment to express our gratitude for all the precious moments in our life we are invited to heal ourselves into wholeness, into peace. As we remember more and more every day that peace is our most natural state of being. We'll take a few deep breaths in and out as we prepare ourselves to come back into the space where we started this little small journey. Take your time, and when you are ready, just open your eyes and refocus your sights into the space where you are sitting. While the process will continue inside of your heart space on its own.
Beautiful. Hard to come out of that and re-enter the real world, isn't it? But I love that, as you say, we can take that with us.
Yeah, it's a little touch. And it's, I would like to say, when everybody's coming back, these little moments in the day, you know, if we only have 3 minutes, we can just move into the space of the heart and bring in always anything that's ready to be transformed, transmuted, dissolved. That's the practice. There is the greater meditation in the morning, the alignment we preferably do when we start the day, and then there's also during the day with all the things that are around us. So it can be 1 minute, it can be 3 minutes, 10 minutes. It's make it small and be with it. Yeah. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. We're going to check in with our production team and see if there are any questions or anyone wants to come in from the Zoom room. We've got folks live, and we'd love to say, if you've got questions, you want to raise your hand, we can bring you in. So we'll open that up. But while we're waiting just to see on that, Anne, I would love you to touch on, if you'd like, you are in the process of publishing a new book about the Holy Spirit. And would you like to share a bit about that? Unmute and share about that. As I mentioned also, Anne published in July her Messages from a Transcendent Realm, which are these channeled messages that her mother received for 25 years. It is fascinating. It is prophetic. And it really is a message that we are continuing to hear today. There she has the book right there. I have my book. It is packed in boxes because I've just had a move of home, but I've read it. It's magnificent. So maybe just a touch on your book about the Holy Spirit, Anne, and then it looks like we might have someone waiting with a question. Olivia's waiting. So let's go ahead and unmute, darling. You're muted again.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, really, the book on the Holy Spirit is a summary of everything that we've been talking about, because it's the story of how we lost the divine feminine and why we lost it and what that loss meant, how it conditioned our consciousness to really remain stuck like a peg in a hole, where it really couldn't understand what was happening. And it's so all the suffering of humanity is so understandable when you understand where we've been stuck for so long in an image of the divine, which is not complete, and also with the feeling of separation, and also with what was Anna called the lower mind, because this is nothing else than the ego trying to struggle to survive in a world it doesn't comprehend, and it has to deal with all the problems of the day-to-day life without understanding. But what you've given here, Anna and Petra, is deeper understanding, which will help people to see it in a context, which will give much greater meaning to their lives and much greater relationship to the divine ground. And this book on messages, I will just read the last few words because there are only 3 lines. They are: love be with you, love be with the world, love be the only eternal blessing. And that's really all we need to know.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to pop in now because we've got a couple of questions and we are running out of time. As always, we've got about 10 minutes left. It looks like Olivia has a question. So we'll start with her. Can we bring on Olivia? Looks like she has some beautiful flowers behind her as well.
Yes, these flowers. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Anne and Anna and Petra and everyone here. I'm so grateful that you're bringing up this conversation, which I hear everywhere now on this Peace Week. And there's so many synchronicities happening. I want to say that I'm grateful because you are also helping us remember what our Indigenous relatives have been sharing for so many years globally. And there's a beautiful tool that my teacher, the Venerable Dahani Wahu and Ani Yunwiwa, 27th lineage carrier of the Cherokee and also a sky dancer, Khandro, in 2 Buddhist lineages. She has us envision this beautiful basket that we're weaving all the way around, all of the lower mind, the dualities, the separation, the illusion of separation, because it's only an illusion. It's the display, she calls it. And so if we weave this huge, beautiful basket of love and compassion, as you just said, Anne, and I love your book. Jean Houston got me onto your book, and I've reread it over and over. I can't wait to read the one you just published. Love is the answer. Love and compassion and raising our vibration. So thank you. And I hope that this is another tool if people want to envision and dream the dream. We are the dreamers. We are creating our reality. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. thank you for all the work you're doing. Oh,
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you so much. That is a beautiful visual, and I love that you shared that. We very much appreciate it. It looks like now we have Ursula with us. Am I right?
Yes, that's right. I really appreciate your bringing together the aspect of the Holy Ghost, the Spirit, and Mary Magdalene. And in that light of, what is it that needs to be got rid of, I'm still sitting with the reality of the last 2,000 years, where we now have over 3 billion people devoted to some Christian devotion, and yet there's still hanging over everybody the threat of excommunication. Sorry, did someone say something?
Sorry, Ursula, we just lost you. We heard the threat of excommunication, and then we didn't hear the question.
Oh, yeah. So I'm wondering, in terms of looking at it from a spiritual platform, that is a fear that every child takes its first breath underneath that kind of fear, which is unseen and unspoken of. And I'm just wondering, in the light of what you were saying with Mary Magdalene and the practices you have, is there something that can be done in the unseen, to try and influence so that would be dissolved? Because I can't see the reason for retaining that kind of threat over the whole of humanity, because I believe it really does stop people from feeling the unity between us, whether Islam or Christian or Catholic, or, it's like it's there behind the scenes. So that was my question.
Thank you, Ursula. Who would like to address that?
I'd love to address that. I think that the kind of the very obvious answer for me to that is that there is no institution that has any power over us unless we allow it to. We are actually our own spiritual masters. And unfortunately, within the religions, there's been a lot of distortion, and I think that that's been widely recognized too. So the way to work through this is really to process our own fears about not being part of a group. And you spoke earlier to the fact that our greatest fear is death, but actually I've heard from some psychologists that that actually our greater fear than death is to not be part of a group. And being part of a religious group is one of those groups. So a big fear is to not be part of that anymore. However, when we follow our authentic voice, our inner authentic voice and our own inner path, and we are able to transcend that fear, move through that fear, we will find that we find a whole new community of people who accept us exactly as we are, without us needing to be anything else but that. So this is the beautiful side. This is the beautiful place where we arrive. But we do need to be able to process the fear, to be able to move out of that limitation, out of a structure that creates fear, into relationships that build love.
And why these community and circles are so important, as we were saying. And so we certainly do invite you to join. If you don't have one, find one, contact us, but join a community, join a circle where you are accepted authentically, exactly the way you are. And now we have Juliet with us, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much. This has been a beautiful session. Thank you so much. And it really feels like the culmination of not only, of the 99 days of the World Unity Week into the 99 days, and now really blooming in this time. And I've had, just from many sessions, it really feels like the divine feminine is being birthed into a new archetype. And I've been kind of given the name of Paxier, to replace the old warrior goddesses that were in duality, that were fighting against. But this new one, the divine feminine, which is not a gender, it's not at all attached to a gender, but it's the divine feminine as it comes down through both male and female. And the way you spoke about that, what you've been speaking about is just confirming all of this too. So thank you so much for your work. I had a question, and that was just, it's been something mulling in my mind. I have a friend who's Icelandic, and she was part of a movement in the 1980s to change the system about women in Iceland. And in 24 hours, when all women, females on the island, stopped all of their roles in every form, whether it be shopping, taking children to school, cooking, working, sex, whatever, anything that they were doing as a female. And within 24 hours, the men conceded and said, whatever you want. And so they got equality of pay. They got mainly what they were saying. Hilda was saying what they really wanted was equal respect and being seen as equal. So therefore, the pay, the types of jobs, everything was changed. And although, of course, it's much more complex doing it on a global level, that was the 1980s without much communication like we have now that we have the internet, etc. Maybe it's a challenge. Could we, particularly the Western women who are free and are not going to be threatened at the thought of doing something like that, is there any way we could start to gather and start to network to be able to do something like that? To Anne, I'm putting that forth as maybe a possibility. I leave it like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, Anne, I know you want to speak to this. We've had these conversations already with regards to our urgent call. So please, Anne, share.
I think, am I muted or not?
No, you're good.
I think we're being guided. And I think this idea has come up at the right moment. And this thing today that we're meeting in also has come up at the right moment. It will move with its own momentum if we just allow it to, and if we ask for help. And like this person who just spoke, it's there in the air, it's in the zeitgeist. This is the moment for unifying, if possible, all the women on the planet to say enough is enough. We don't want any more sacrificial rituals. We don't want to lose our sons, husbands, fathers, partners, whatever, in any more wars. This has to stop. It's an old pattern, which has been really an addiction and a psychosis. And we need to recognize it as such and let it go. And I think this may be the moment when this can be done, even though there are wars all over the planet, more to come. Just read Azerbaijan today and terrible things in Sudan. But all women have had enough. And I think, like the Icelandic women, if we got together, we could do it. I really do. This is the moment.
Agreed. It's our time. So we are just about out of time. I want to make sure you know how to find us so that the conversation doesn't end here. As I mentioned I mentioned it briefly, I think, but Friday, the conversation continues at noon right here on the peaceweek.org website. Sheila Cash is hosting Anne and myself and all of those who have been with us through these 99 days in our Circle of Peace. We've called it the Co-Creation Circle of Peace. So please come join us there. It's an open Zoom room. We'd love to have you. And you can find, as we said, on annbearing.com, you can find these publications, our urgent call, and we want to make sure to direct you there for anything all of the amazing wisdom that Anne continues to share. And Anna and Petra, I'd like to give you the last word, just to how can folks find you, and what are you offering at this point?
Shall I speak to that, Petra?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
So people, we can be found at marymagdaleneschool.com. It is. And we have, for anybody that is seeing us for the first time, we have also a book. I don't know. It's hard to maybe see. Here it is, possibly Mary Magdalene's Great Passage. It's kind of, there we go. And we are also going to be starting a program, actually, that's being led by Mary Magdalene, who has asked us to go to Cyprus to bring back into the world her teachings that she had there with her students over a period of 11 years. They met there regularly. in the summer months, and she taught, and the consciousness had to be closed because it was dangerous to keep it open, and we've been asked to go there and to retrieve this consciousness and bring it back into the world. So we have a program to bring people along with us on that journey of peace, which starts on Monday. That can be found on our website as well. And if people are interested, we're really happy if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, because we have programs upcoming, lots of upcoming programs. We have a membership program and many other things. So we'd be really happy to see you with us.
Perfect. Anne, do you want to say one last thing before we pop off in 40 seconds?
No, I don't think I have any more to say. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Well, we'll be saying more on Friday. Please, as we are just in the midst of Peace Week, so much more happening. So be sure to check out the website, peaceweek.org. Find other things that you're drawn to. Join. We need you all. We need everyone stepping up. Now is our time together. So sending peace and blessings to all of you. Thank you for being with us. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth, oh come on home. Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth TV, Unity Earth, we're coming home.